The idea with the blackout was if the Japanese managed to make it, they would fly over to LA and it was all of a sudden it would just be nothing but darkness. And then the pilots would get all confused and think they had like taken a wrong turn. And their son, who's in the passenger side, would have to turn on the overhead light. But then the pilot dad would start screaming at him. And then they'd get into a big argument about not being able to read a map without a light. And the disappointment from like parent and child would get so great that all the planes would just crash into each other. And boom, America wins the war. The end.
Hey everybody, welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian, reporting to you live from the city of Los Angeles.
How is it there? Probably like drones and helicopters and fighter jets, right?
I mean, that's kind of par for the course. A, because there's always helicopters flying over LA because of LAPD. Drones because everyone's always filming some weird establishing shot. So part of that is like, normal, but
just part of it.
Part of it. But no, there's definitely like an increased, or I don't know if it's increased or if I feel like I'm just more sensitive to it, but it feels like I'm hearing more like millicopter. Millicopter is the new word, by the way. I just invented it, patent pending.
Millipede and half helicopter.
Millipede helicopters that are long, that have like a thousand. Yeah, but they have like 1,000 fans on top of them because that's how helicopters work. Same technology as your bathroom fan.
Yeah.
Off to a great start. We're making all reasons for why LA shouldn't be occupied right now because genius like this just gets emitted.
I just love, hey, I have no defense. I just love that, like, it's such an LA thing. You're like, oh, is that the government helicopter or the regular helicopter?
Or is the LAPD out to destroy us or is the government out to destroy us?
Yeah.
No, but in answer to your question, it's eerie. It's a little bit eerie.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if people for some reason have not heard about anything that's happening in Los Angeles.
How?
I'm jealous. You're probably out camping and didn't have internet access anywhere. But the mood is eerie because, on the one hand, like I said, we're hearing helicopters and like military planes and you're reading the news and you're like, cool, there's about to be, I've heard two different reports. One said 500, another had said 700. I'm not sure what the final number of it is, but there's Marines 700. Coming to Los Angeles tomorrow. Yeah. Allegedly by tomorrow, they're going to show up, which is just, I can't even, this podcast is not long enough for me to complain about this, but
same.
But it's eerie in the way that like on your day to day, like, I go outside, I go get a coffee, I do whatever. Like it's the whole thing's confined to like a very small, limited area of Los Angeles. And LA's a big city. It's a huge
gigantic
city. So it all feels
that.
insane. This all feels insane. It's a complete escalation. It's completely unnecessary. And frankly, it's disgusting and hot take, but not a fan.
What?
Yeah, that'll come as a shock to our listeners.
Yeah, exactly. He never rants about injustice ever.
No.
He's a believer in, never mind, I can't even say it. It's not even funny. Like, it just makes me want to vomit. But yeah, it's been funny because I've been reading a lot about World War II. And it's just like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. The playbook is open and they're following it step by step. So
I don't know where we go from here. I'm hoping that it sort of peters out, but who knows, man?
Hopefully. I just think a lot of little tiny things like this are they're trying to set the stage for an excuse to, maybe this isn't the podcast for this. Never mind.
Listen, all we do is just read about history and patterns that repeat themselves. So who are we to say that something may or may not happen?
Patterns, look, it doesn't happen every 100 or so years when the world swings into fascism. It's not going to happen again. It's not right on time.
No, not at all. I will say, though, as you pointed out to me, which was the only thing that I felt good about, you were like, oh, the only good thing that's happening is that you're a lot funnier on Blue Sky than I remembered. I'm like, you're right, because I've been going a little bit apeshit. It's been hard for me to focus on anything.
You're killing it on social media. Which you're angry, as you know, from having a 4-year podcast where you got angry and everyone loved it. Yeah. You being angry is really funny. So,
yeah, I'm very good at being mad and making fun of things that I think are gross and just being very cutting.
Fights with Kamala Harris.
And Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff.
And I was trying to pick a fight with Gavin Newsom, but he's sort of like, he got off his ass a little bit. So I'm like, good. Yeah. I like to think that I had some small part to play in this. Yeah. Me and my tens of followers pushed these people to do things.
Gavin Newsom into being angry enough to prod the government, the U.S. government through Twitter. No, I just think Gavin just been waiting. Because like I saw that meme that was like, he's our really mean older brother.
Oh, yeah.
who's really rude to us. But then if someone messes with us, he's the
Yeah.
best person to have on your side. And for those who don't understand Gavin Newsom in California, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, no. So in terms of the day-to-day vibes, though, which you're going to be coming this weekend
Tomorrow
to visit, it's weird. It's like there's a huge incongruence between what you're seeing being covered versus what the actual vibe on the sort of on the ground is. It's so odd, and it seems like it's going to keep getting worse. And I hope it doesn't. But and I know people in the Discord were like, "We want to hear you guys scream and complain about it," but I'm like, "Oh, I don't have anything to say that's not already been said," which has been
exactly.
Said
that's why
except...
I keep wanting to tweet something or blue sky something, and I just nothing I say hasn't been said yet.
Yeah,
and that's
I had one that I thought was a banger, which was like, I'm tired of hearing California hot takes from people who would wake up from a 4.3, which I was like, that says it all to me. I was like, that's all I got to say.
Sleep through an earthquake and then we'll talk.
Then we'll talk.
So, and you know what? Coexisting with multitudes of people is what we Californians have always been known for. So
naked hippies, not a threat to anybody.
No.
Young black kid who's a skateboarder, not a threat. We're just chilling. We're all just trying to live our lives. Doesn't matter.
Just in California.
Yeah.
On stolen land. Okay? Can we all remember that?
Listen, but we all remember that too in California. That's the other thing. We don't back away from that. We're never like, oh no, we deserve. We're like, yeah, no, it sucks. No, sorry about that.
We ended up here too.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, at least we feel bad about it.
Yeah, in what used to be Mexico. I could yell forever and ever, and we probably will. This weekend.
I'm sure. Hopefully, this won't get worse by the next episode. But stay tuned. This might be like a thing that we complain more and more and more and more about. But as far as
sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, as far as our safety is okay. And I'll say one last thing. And I did mention this on Blue Sky, where I thought it's really funny that this is the moment that they decided to come for everybody in LA, because we just had fires, we just had strikes, we have had the industry essentially go into like a pretty quick collapse over the course of a couple of years, and the Dodgers won the World Series. So people in LA are like,
did you see that footage?
Yeah. People in LA are like, oh, come at me, bro. Like, eat shit. Like, no one is standing for this except for the, whatever. It does. LA gets a lot of shit. Mostly from us within Los Angeles.
As it deserves. Yeah.
As it deserves, because we shit on it. But at this moment, we're like, no, this isn't it. This is not, you're not going to come for us for this kind of shit.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
People
and
are,
I will say, if
hardcore.
It does escalate, it will not be because of people in LA. Just know that, everybody.
It never is. No, it's never been because of that.
The news will try to tell you that it is.
Again, I don't think anybody listening to this would
never know.
Is worried about that. But yeah, no, it's weird.
Anyway, that was our 15 minutes of yelling about the world.
Very concise, honestly. We kind of got to the point. I'm surprised it didn't really devolve into anything.
In this.
Yeah.
I've been reading this constantly all day, barely able to focus.
Yeah, I've been like that as well. And then, of course, I've had deadlines too, which... Love it.
Right.
Love having deadlines and a show. And like, if I don't do this, I won't be able to pay rent because the industry's collapsing. But also there's Marines coming to potentially arrest and fight and kill people. I don't know.
Doing your things.
Life's great, you guys. Everything's wonderful. Can't imagine why people have lost faith in this system. Yeah.
No one's being laid off up here, not in giant swaths of hundreds of thousands. It's fine.
Well, you were distracted, obviously, but I believe you are going to be up first this week because nevertheless, we exist.
Speaking of fascist idiots overtaking otherwise peaceful countries, today I'm going to go dive right back into my series, which is LGBT people during World War II.
Yep. I believe we're up to B.
B, and
Boeing sexuals.
I was about to say,
at long last.
I've been saying I'm a Boeing sexual, but unfortunately, it does not stand for Boeing.
What?
It stands for bisexual. I know.
Support withdrawn. Okay, I'm a huge fan of Boeing. I'm not even going to mention what happened this morning that I read on the news that is devastating.
Oh no, I can't. I
can't even think about it.
Why did you say anything?
I'm sorry. The Boeing sexual side of me came out, but continue.
Let's just say I'm glad I'm taking a train tomorrow.
Yeah, Boeing sexual boy boss.
14 hours? Yes. Wait, what did you just say?
A Boeing sexual boy boss? Baseball boy boss?
Look,
I'm sorry, I stepped all over your introduction.
Boeing is trying, okay?
Yeah.
All right? It's doing its best.
It is.
Okay. So this week is B, which does not stand for Boeing. And it's going to be a lot more lighthearted than last week, simply because it seems like the bisexual chaos that people often attribute to us is not a new phenomenon and is indeed been a hallmark of the identity for written history. So I've got one of history's more chaotic bisexual women to talk about today, and her name is Taherian Koopman.
Okay.
And she was a Dutch-Indonesian model, art collector, and spy in World War II.
Dutch-Indonesian, meaning like half Dutch, half Indonesian, or like
Yes.
Dutch raised in Indonesia?
No, she's biracial and bisexual, and she is awesome. I found her while reading about Josephine Baker. I don't know if you know anything about... Okay, good. One of my favorite people in history. She even made it onto the cover of my book with her cat Chiquita.
I didn't think I even caught that.
Yeah. Her giant cat is holding a little Josephine Baker.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I love her. Keep it Josephine.
Josephine. That's a good sign off. I like that.
She was a bisexual Black American performer who was also a spy for the resistance in France during the war. So the problem is I was going to cover her, but I was like, she has been extensively covered. You can find out anything about her you want. But I was still hooked on the spy thing. And of course, this led me down the route of for some reason, a lot of bisexual spies, which makes sense to me. Yeah. It's the code switching.
Right, I was going to say, it's like you're going between two worlds.
Yes.
You can kind of understand both of them or relate to them.
You confuse both sides. And you kind of become, they kind of became like these little like, that's how they live because they're crazy.
No one can really quite peg you in one way.
No.
So it makes sense.
They all think you're a slut. That's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Through all of history, and even now, that is one of the very untrue stereotypes of bisexual people, is that they are loose, slutty, whatever.
The only stereotype of bisexual people I have right now is the lighting, because that's all I ever hear about. Is like, but there's always some lighting package that follows them around everywhere they go. That's all I know about bisexual stereotypes.
Oh, I should have
done your whole tab in bisexual lighting, Hannah. Missed opportunity. Maybe we can fix it in post.
I have a big bisexual flag. I got to get out for Pride, but I should have hung that up. Just so everyone knows, I would have a bisexual flag around me as a cape, but I can't find it because I have no idea where anything is.
Yeah.
Okay, back to it. So a lot of times bisexual people kind of get pegged as these like, we'll sleep with anybody, sluts. And in this case, it kind of was a good thing that they thought of her as this because it enabled this person to hide very well. Hang on, I got to catch my breath. It's tiring being insane.
I was going to say, did you get out of breath by standing up from your chair?
No. I got out of breath from getting excited about the flag.
I see.
So, Taherian. Why can't I catch my breath? Give me a second. Sorry. Okay. Oh, I'm here. I'm a minute.
Worst spy I've ever seen. Continue.
100% good at this. I'm good at my job. I would be a terrible spy. I would be like, guess what I found out? Hitler's going to attack Poland. And I'd tell everyone. Okay. Back to Taherian Koopman. Taherian was actually not known by Taherian during her lifetime. She was known by Toto, which was the name of her dad's favorite horse. I don't know why she was named after her dad's favorite horse, but are you looking up a picture of her?
I was going to say, I need you to send me a picture of Taherian Koopman.
Going to. Hang
or do
on.
I have to wait?
I
should
right
wait.
here.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Give me a second. Okay.
Well, you said Dutch Indonesian. I don't think I've ever seen a Dutch Indonesian person before. I was curious as to
looks like she's half Asian.
Yeah, she does. She's beautiful. She's a model.
Oh, she's gorgeous. So, Taherian, Toto, I'm going to call her Toto from now on, Toto Koopman, was born in 1908 in Salatiga on the island of Java. You trying to look like her? You look just like her, beard and everything.
Born on Java.
On Java, which was at the time part of the Dutch East Indies. It was colonized by the Dutch. And if you want to be extremely sad, go read about the Dutch East Indies sometime. I'm not going to get into it. Her parents were a Dutch officer named Jan Koopman and a Javanese woman named Katerina Westrick. So she had one brother who ended up becoming like a famous tennis player. These kids were like very good at what they did.
Yeah.
Her parents were actually very progressive, and she was educated and treated the same as a young boy would have been, and as a white Dutch person. So her dad and her mom were married, and at the time, if you were mixed race in the Dutch East Indies, you would be known as a green Dutch person.
Green
I don't know
Dutch?
why. Yeah, I don't know why they called it that. Apparently,
hopefully not forest green, although I think we cut that part out, so people are going to have no idea what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Go join the Patreon. We yell about colors like toddlers would. And she had these very progressive parents who kind of imbued in her this pride in her ethnicity, which I thought was really cool for the time.
Yeah.
And Koopman, thanks to her parents, she never really felt like she had to hide her ethnicity. And in 1920, when she was, I think, like 12, she actually was sent from Java to a school in the Netherlands called Bloemendaal, which was kind of this like ritzy upper class school, which her parents weren't wealthy, but they were mostly just middle class. But it was common for the Dutch people in the East Indies to send their kids to the Netherlands for schooling.
Okay.
And so she went and she lived with family friends, and it would actually be the last time she ever saw her parents.
What?
Which, yeah.
Oh, no.
And don't worry, she survives the war, too. Like, she just never saw them again.
Because they get... are you going to get into that? Or
I
is
don't
it just
know.
because...
No,
Oh.
I just don't know. They just never... She never goes back to Java.
And they're like, I don't really want to leave. You know, I got to... Who's going to feed the cat?
Yeah, the cat we have here.
Yeah, my knees really hurt when I got to be on a boat for 37 hours or however long it takes.
I hate boats.
Yeah.
I think it would probably take like a week. Anyway, while she was at this school, she realized she was really good at languages and like picking up languages left and right. So she learned to become fluent in German, French, English, Italian, and Turkish.
Okay.
And all of the people who spoke to her in these languages said that she had like perfect pronunciation. She sounded like a native, which great spy material.
How old is she again when she goes to school?
12. And then she continues at this boarding school. Yeah.
So I went overseas, as you know, like in middle school.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And I grew up bilingual, speaking Farsi and English. I mean, I first learned Farsi, and then I learned English, obviously, when we went to school and stuff. And I remember when I went overseas, it was just for like a year. We learned French. I learned it very quickly. France,
right?
And it was just very fast for me. And then it was kind of like, it turned into this weird,
interesting.
What's the word I'm thinking of? Because English is such a strange language that doesn't make any sense. Mm-mm. I remember being like, oh, like the reason I learned French so quickly, I mean, part of it's just I was 12, but the other part of it, I was like, oh, there's rules to this language. So once you kind of understand the structure of it, it becomes very easy. And then of course it's like, oh, it's a Romance language. And then you're like, whatever, Latin-based stuff. And then so like, there was one point where I was kind of picking up Spanish pretty quickly as well as a result of it. And so I could see how you full on, not that I'm saying that I'm like this spy genius like this lady was, but I'm saying I remember having experienced it on some level and being like, oh, I can see how it sort of perpetuates itself too, where you're like, oh, it's cool. And then people think it's impressive that I learned this language, and you sort of get excited to learn more. And it's like, I can see how you end up learning like 5 or 6 of them in a row. 4
or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Just especially if you keep going at it.
Especially if you grew up bilingual, which she probably did. And again, this all kind of comes back to like what I mentioned last week is when you are a marginalized person, you tend to experience the world and take from the world what would not necessarily be given to you naturally. Do you know what I mean? Whereas she being bilingual, biracial, bisexual, was able to bridge all these divides and learn these languages and kind of blend in wherever she went, which was one of her incredible personality traits, is that she endeared herself to everyone. Yeah. And despite racism, despite homophobia.
I'm relating to this of the moving to different places, picking up different languages, having the other part too is just moving a bunch, aside from, you said the bisexual part of it is, and biracial part, but also moving is, you go one of 2 ways when you move a bunch. You either become weird and ostracized and afraid to make friends, or you just become where you're like, I'm forced to sort of like adapt so that I don't get bullied and beaten up. So
we get along so well, I think.
Yeah, seriously.
Like I think we've both talked about how we've both lived in like 13 or more different houses or places
before we
or
were
countries.
like 20 or something.
I think the longest I lived anywhere was for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. I was like, am I going to die here? What is this? This isn't what stability looks like.
Yeah.
But no, it really gives you a look into another person. It like you said, it forces you to adapt.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what Toto did when she got to the Netherlands, because she came from a beautiful island with like gorgeous weather, and she goes to the Netherlands and is like, this place is so cold.
Sucks.
This place sucks. And what she really loved was that they were so close to Paris, and some of these rich kids she lived with would go to Paris often and like buy clothes, and so she kind of got in on that, and she started being really interested in clothing. And she started dressing really eccentrically because when you're already, again, marginalized, it's like, may as well just go all in. And she started dressing differently and she cut her hair differently. She really stood out. And she did not hide the fact that she was interested in women as well as men. When she was asked to wear different clothes, she was like, no, not
no
gonna.
Thanks.
Well, you talk to my parents, they're not here. And in 1928, after school was over, she moved to Paris and started working as a model. And her family was disappointed because they were like, that's just one step above being a prostitute. And she was like, whatever. You guys aren't here. Again,
what do you got against
aren't
prostitutes?
Here.
Yeah. Why don't you get on a boat about it?
Why don't you come over here and stop me?
Exactly.
Anyway, and she first worked as a model for Coco Chanel.
Wow.
But she got weird. She said she got a weird feeling about Coco Chanel.
I was going to say.
Yeah, she didn't like her. She didn't like how she would touch her. She didn't like the feel of her. She didn't like being around her. Everything about Coco Chanel gave her the heebie-jeebies. And she was onto something as Coco Chanel would later go to join the Nazis and kind of never apologize for it and be hanging out with Italian fascists. So she began getting jobs all around Paris after she quit Chanel, which is crazy to me. Like, if I had gotten a job with someone and I've quit based on vibes, that's an insane decision to make. Like, I don't like the vibes here, so I'm quitting this amazing opportunity. Like, that takes like a lot of guts, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I also would never quit because I've never been fired, and I'm always terrified that I'll never get another job again. So I'll usually just end up being abused forever. Much like this podcast.
I won't let him leave, you guys. He's begged me.
I kept trying. She won't.
Look. I have nothing to say to that.
I was going to say, I'm looking.
Just begging you. Please don't leave.
Don't leave!
She began getting jobs around Paris and started working for Vogue. And she would wear their clothes. They would wear the clothes out and be photographed by Vogue around the city. And kind of like a walking billboard for these different designers.
Influencers of her day.
Yes. No, it's really like an early influencer where she'd go and like, because she was so charming, because she was gorgeous, and because she knew how to like talk her way into things, she ended up becoming friends with aristocrats, designers, models, actresses, politicians, kind of just was able to go between all these different groups.
This is literally the premise of Zoolander, by the way.
So far,
like,
yes.
Models get access to like the most exclusive areas. They're trained to do whatever you tell them to do. And then it's like,
it's true.
This is the whole premise of that movie. It's really funny.
Unfortunately, I don't think Zoolander is going to go down the same path as this one, but we'll see where it diverges.
Obey my dog.
I haven't seen Zoolander. I remember I watched Zoolander and I was in the worst mood that day, and I just sat through it like this the whole time, like glaring, refusing to think it's funny. And I haven't seen it since.
Oh my God. All you're doing is hurting yourself.
I know. I learned that. I learned being in a bad mood.
The thing about Zoolander I remember is that so it came out in like October or something of 2001.
Okay.
So like obviously 9/11 had happened like 6 weeks before or something. So everybody was sad and angry and upset and confused. And I remember when that movie finally came out, it was like this weird release where everybody was like, oh, we haven't like really laughed about anything for a while. So it became, and I was a freshman in college. So it became the movie that we were like obsessed with. And then I got the DVD and we just watched it like over and over. I've seen the movie so many times.
That's how Hot Rod was for us, except
I love Hot Rod.
We watched Hot Rod.
Beans.
I had a
Wait, no,
I had a
after
DVD of
9/11
Hot
you're
Rod.
saying?
No, just in general in college.
I see. Yeah.
We'd get home from class and watch like either Hot Rod or all of Arrested Development. We watched through Arrested Development like I think probably 15 times over the years.
Yeah.
And
Hot
then
Rod's a good
Always
one, too.
Sunny in Philadelphia. We had the first 4 seasons of that on DVD. Yeah, Hot Rod is so funny. I gotta watch Zoolander again.
Well, maybe
also,
I'll force you to
I
watch
love
it.
that was the balm for 9/11.
Balm meaning BALM, not bomb.
Oh, yikes.
Yes.
Sorry, that was the Neosporin. I don't know.
The anti-itch cream for your hemorrhoids after 9/11.
The 9/11 hemorrhoid, I needed some preparation. Wait, no.
Preparation
I'm going to
H?
end this. I'm going to end everything.
Keep going.
Okay. I'm going to keep going. So
Zoolander. Mugatu is just like hanging out in the shadows.
Yes, hanging out with everybody.
But she's not dumb, so it doesn't really work. Sorry.
But people think she's dumb. That's the key. People think she's just this flighty. She's very flirtatious, and she does not hide the fact that she has affairs with people, men and women. And so people are like, whoa. But she just does it so like unapologetically that they don't even know what to say. Mm-hmm. Like there's absolutely no hiding. She's like, yeah, this is my girlfriend, Tallulah Bankhead, the famous actress from, Hitchcock movies. And this is just stuff like that, and they would hold hands in public, and people would be like, I guess that's just what they're doing, which is wild to me.
They'd all be talking about her behind her back.
No, seriously, they're like,
yeah,
they banging? And it's like, absolutely. Or this is my boyfriend, this wealthy politician, or just did not even care. And she began getting jobs around Paris, becoming not just the first mixed race and openly bisexual model to be on the cover of Vogue, but also the first model to be on the cover of Vogue. She was the very first photographed model.
What the hell was the cover of Vogue before that?
Illustrations. Here, I'm going to send you a picture.
Oh, it hadn't even occurred to me.
I know. So she was the very first model to be with a photograph to be on the cover of Vogue, and here she is.
Oh, nice. She's got the gloves that go up to her elbows and the crazy old kind of, I guess it's like a deco style red hat.
Yeah, because this is
giant
still like
pearl
the 20s.
earring. Yeah.
Yeah.
September, actually this says 1933, I believe, on the corner.
Oh, you're right. This is 1930s. So her career began to grow, and she became one of the most well-known models in Europe. And besides having Tallulah Bankhead as one of her lovers, she also had a relationship with Randolph Churchill, the son of Winston Churchill. And they were lovers for a time. And she also had an affair with a man named Lord Beaverbrook. And
that's not real. That can't be real.
It's
no.
His name is Max Beaverbrook. So Lord Beaverbrook was like the William Randolph Hearst of Europe.
This is like a porn name.
I know.
Lord Beaverbrook here to deliver your pizza. Well, except it's Lord, he's like, hello, Governor. I'm Lord Beaverbrook. I'm here to deliver your Marmite and beans and toast. That's how British porn sounded back in the day.
Inexplicably Cockney.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was this... Just lather me up in Marmite. Lord Beaverbrook, lather my beaver up in Marmite. All right. This is just the beginning of the insane
of
name
Lord
train. Lord Beaverbrook. All right. It's going to be okay.
How did these people own the world for so long with names like Lord Beaverbrook?
Beaverbrook. I don't know. Because they got guns first.
No, they had a navy, really, is the big thing, I think.
That's true. The British Navy was...
The Navy was really the reason.
Incredibly good. Yeah. So you better save some of those laughs for these next names. So Lord Beaverbrook was like the William Randolph Hearst of Europe. He owned like the largest newspaper.
A rich liar.
Yes. Except this guy was like on the right side of history.
Okay, good.
He had his issues. He was like a nationalist, but I wouldn't say he was racist. He just loved England. Anyway,
brooked too many beavers to know about that.
He could brook a beaver better than any man I met.
Your beaver will become like a brook once I am completed with my seduction process.
My endeavors.
Yeah. Your beaver was once a dam, but now it is brooked. You have been brooked. And he has like a little calling card that he leaves behind.
Just
yeah.
Like a coin
You've
slap.
been brooked by Beaverbrook, the Lord.
Beaverbrook, bisexual Beaverbrook. Okay, stop. I'm gonna end up talking for like an hour. It's fine. World's ending. It's fine. Okay, so at one point, Lord Beaverbrook got a job with a man named John Stairs, spelled like stairs. Yes. Like
John
stairs you walk up and down.
That sounds like you and I have been like talking for 3 hours and we're trying to make fun of somebody, and like the pizza delivery guy like couldn't get into the elevator and his name is John, and then he comes up the stairs and we're too tired to come with things funny. We're like, oh, Johnny Stairs over here.
100%. One of our like half-assed creation names.
Yeah. Oh, John, I'm too good for John Stairs. Too good for the elevator.
Stairs isn't taking the elevator because he loves
I prefer to go up
so
and down the stairs because I need to get my steps in because I'm John Stairs.
Beaver, you're broke. I'm going to walk up these stairs. So at one point, so John Stairs was like his mentor. Then he became
Sorry, hold
friends.
on. He's Beaverbrook's mentor?
Yes.
Beaverbrook's mentor is a man named John Stairs.
John Stairs. Jimmy Elevator. Okay, so then he becomes friends with a guy named, I'm going to get through this, with a guy named Boner Law. He's gotten up, he's walking away.
No, you're lying. You're lying.
No, I'm
No,
not.
no, this is not possible.
His name is Bonar. Bonar Law. I think Boner's his middle name. But I was too obsessed with it to even look up his first name.
Boner law?
Boner
The first
law,
rule
yeah.
of boner law is
don't dam the Beaverbrook.
don't damn the Beaverbrook. Take the stairs.
Take the stairs. So these men. Anyway, Boner Law.
Please tell me he was a lawyer.
He was the Prime Minister of Britain.
Oh, really?
Yes, but only for like 6 months because he.
Did he go to law school?
Probably.
Oh my God!
See.
Please tell me he opened up a firm afterwards, just called Boner Law.
Boner Law. His name was Andrew, but he did not go by Andrew.
He's like, I'm gonna go by Boner, which respect.
Do you want to see a picture of Boner?
Not sure I do, Hannah. I believe that's called workplace harassment. Boner Law.
He
just looks like a guy
humorless.
with a mustache. Yeah, he does look like he's never laughed in his life, despite being named Boner.
Yep. So he was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom right after David Lloyd George, who was the first Welsh Prime Minister, actually. And then he was only in for like 6 months. Yeah,
then he went limp.
6 months. And then he could only keep it up for 6 months. Look, it's hard.
It's not. It's
if you want to run the
difficult.
British
It's not
Empire,
hard. That's the problem, Hannah.
You gotta stay hard. Okay?
He brought in his chief advisor, Lord Andrew Fluffer, to help him in his bonerly duties.
I'm here to fluff you, sir.
But you could not edge cyst. He could not edge cyst at all.
He did not edge cyst at all.
He limp
no,
cysted.
Dude. So Boner Law goes on to become the whatever it is, president of the UK. What's it called? Prime Minister. So we're done with the dumb names for a little bit, I think. So Churchill put Beaverbrook in charge of aircraft production during World War II, giving him like we have to make it through this. Giving him like
I'm trying.
dictator. I know. I'm just, so am I.
But so just one question. When there was martial law declared at some point, did he just say Boner Law has been declared and go around?
I assume. And going around just letting everyone know? What do you mean?
Just being like, martial law has been declared, but just being like, Boner Law has been declared is what I'm saying. It's like, that's what I would have done. Day one, I declare Boner Law. Actually, I'm sorry.
Like,
I declare Boner Law.
I declare Boner Law. And then everyone's like, please stop being Prime Minister. And that's how he got ousted because he required everyone. Anyway, we...
Drip, drip, dripped out. Sorry, continue. Yes. We love the Boner Law? No, we love... No. You said who came after him?
I don't know.
Who came after his Boner
Stanley
Law?
Baldwin?
I can't.
I know. Who came after Lord Boner Bra? Blah? Not Bra.
Boner Bra.
Okay. Give me a second.
This is your fault.
Alyssa.
You can't do this. You can't bring this to me. You can't bring Boner Law and John Stairs and Beaverbrook.
Okay, I'm going to call him Max. All right? Max B, aka Beaverbrook. He was like this really old dude, 30 years older than Toto, but they became lovers.
Okay.
And she kind of got all this access to like the Churchills and all these British politicians and people who like the guy who, was it M from
Q?
James Bond? Q?
I don't know. Some
Who
letter.
is it?
Z. F.
She met the person who that was based on, who then taught her like all these, like found out that she could speak all these languages. And he's like, oh, you could be a good spy.
Or the head of MI6 or whatever. That person?
Yeah, head of
gotcha.
MI6.
Yeah.
And so she knew all these people and kind of had like friends all over the place. And Lord Beaverbrook was put in charge of the aircraft production during World War II, almost to a dictatorial level. So he
so Lord Beaverbrook was the William Randolph Hearst guy, or was that John Stairs?
No, John Stairs is dead.
He just was a guy.
Him. He was a guy. I needed to tell you his name because his name was John Stairs.
And the boner guy was just a boner guy. There's nothing important about.
He had a lot to do with like laying the groundwork for post World War I Britain.
Okay.
And
but in regards to this story, I'm saying, like, I just need to know that Beaverbrook is
done.
He's Citizen Kane.
Yes.
Citizen Kane, Beaverbrook becomes head of making ships.
Head of aircraft, which is like...
I'm sorry. Okay.
This dude is not, like, he's a newspaper
Not qualified.
guy,
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a paperman. He's not qualified for this at all.
Not at all. But he was, like, obsessively into making sure they had a ton of aircraft. Almost too many. Almost too much. And he was kind of the only one in charge of it. And Churchill was like, whatever, do what you need to do. We got to get to this war.
I have other things to do.
And he, before the war was even declared, he was like going around Europe because he was a newspaper guy and like talking to leaders and stuff and kind of getting like the lowdown. And he would bring Toto with him. Okay. And apparently she would translate for him. So she met...
Oh, nice.
She met Hitler, I think, and Mussolini. She met, not just them, like a bunch of other government officials. There's no documentation of it, but there are word of mouth stories saying that she was in the room with Lord Beaverbrook translating for him while talking to these people. Yeah, his name's that. Don't worry, he's going to be out of the picture soon. And as he was making these airplanes for when the war started, he realized that Toto was banging his son, Lord Beaverbrook Jr.
At the same time?
Yes. So, you know, Toto made some decisions. And he was like, ew, no thanks. And so he like smeared her in the paper, which just kind of made her more of like interesting.
Interesting,
and
this lady.
Her and Max Jr., who was this like hot fighter pilot, lived together for 4 years.
Max Beaverbrook.
Yes. Okay. Baby Beaverbrook.
Baby Beaver. That's too much. I can't do that.
We have to be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
No more of that.
No, just you crossed the line now and I'm like, oh no. Yeah, now I saw something I want to unsee in my mind.
I put it to rest.
Okay. I finished it. Good job. It's actually pretty good. I'm glad that you did that. It's over.
You're
I can't
welcome.
fixate on it anymore now because it's been ruined.
Now I know that's your limit.
Yeah.
So finally, after them living together and him and his dad becoming estranged, Lord Beaverbrook was like, look, I will pay you a stipend every month for the rest of your life if you do not marry my son or even be with him. And she was like, okay. So she broke up with his son and took the money. And so there she was. She had money. She had freedom. She was not tied to anybody. And it was around 1934 that she started, she'd been gathering information for him. And then at some point, this is where it gets hazy. She goes to Italy pre-war, and she actually has an affair with the son-in-law of Mussolini at one point, and is present in many meetings with the fascist government, the pre-war fascist government. And she would pass what she found to Beaverbrook and to also some of the British connections she had back in England. This was even pre-war, so like when things were still kind of heating up, and she was just around in Italy. And by 1939, she had met an Italian resistance fighter. So this is after the war had been declared, and Italy was like, we're evil. And so she fell in love with an Italian resistance leader who she would like sell all of her jewels and furs to like fund the resistance in Italy. By then, she was full swing working for the Italian resistance, spying for them, still kind of going around those like top echelon circles, social circles, gathering information, memorizing plans for battles, and memorizing tank designs, and then drawing them later. She had an incredible memory, like an amazing photographic memory, and she would, and she was not, no one suspected her. That's the thing. She was just this like, good time girl who banged guys and gals all over Italy. And it took about 2 years for the Italian police to start kind of realizing, like, hang on, celebrities are moving around. No, they thought, they're like, this is weird. She's everywhere, like all the time. Everyone loves her. Why is she here? Why does she move around so easily? And so she was arrested. Mm-hmm. And they were like, hey, we've noticed that you've been all over the place. Do you want to spy for us? And she was like, no.
Okay, no.
No, she was like, no, in over my head. Because she's already been spying for... She was not one to be a double agent, just because I don't think that was in her personality. Mm-hmm. And she refused, and they were like, oh, okay, well, now we're going to have to keep you. So they sent her to a detention camp. Ugh. And several remote detention camps in Italy. She escaped from one of them.
Nice.
With another spy who was being tortured, who was close to death. And she was like, we got to get this guy out of here. Yeah. And so she got him out and herself out. And then she went and hid in the mountains, caves in the mountains near Perugia, Italy. And kind of hopped around from safe house to safe house, started helping escapees find asylum in and out of the country through all of her contacts. Mm-hmm. And she was caught again. And she escaped again.
Do you find out how she escaped from all these places?
Not this time. I have no
helicopter
idea.
Escape, no Baby Bell cheese.
No, she didn't make a gun out of Baby Bell or Yeah, exactly. She gets on a helicopter with, what's his name? Already forgot his name.
I don't know. It was your
Michelle.
tab.
You think I remember anything? Do you think I remember anything? I just got squeaky. Sorry.
I don't remember his name.
Michelle.
Beaverbrook.
Michelle Beaverbrook, helicopter enthusiast.
A millicopter.
A millipede copter, yeah.
Millicopter,
Ew.
remember? That's what it was.
Fine, you're right. Whatever. So she escaped again and went back. Like every time she escaped, she was like, I'm going to go back to working for the resistance. And I don't know exactly what she did, but she was highly involved in helping people escape and getting forged documents to them and helping them out of the country. And also, at this point, they knew who she was, so she couldn't go like mixing with the like upper echelons anymore. And so she got her hands, like she was like in the trenches of
She's kind of been outed
resistance.
Essentially and like
and
forfeited her opportunity to be able to
yeah
move anonymously.
But she gave up all the fancy stuff and just got right to work at being like this. She, put the money where her mouth was. She was just like, yeah, I'm doing this. Soon, she found her way to this place in Venice called the Danieli Hotel. And it was this fancy place. And she started kind of hanging out with some of her wealthy friends that she knew. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm going to hang out. I'm going to like hide out in here until I can figure out a way to get out of this, to get out safely. But soon the Germans were going around trying to like flush out people from these hotels. And because they knew people were hiding spies. And they were at one point surrounding the hotel. So some of the aristocrats threw a dinner party for the German officers while they were there and had Toto just sitting there with them as part of it. Just sitting next to the German, like the main guy. And she was flirting with him the whole time, charming him in her perfect German, with her perfect German voice or accent or whatever. And they left and she was fine.
So they just thought she was a regular aristocrat? They didn't realize I see. Were they looking for her specifically, or they were just trying to flesh? Okay.
No, they were looking for several people, but they didn't. No, not her specifically. They had been. I can't remember exactly. I couldn't quite figure out why they were there, but at that point, everyone was on alert because Germans were going like place to place, trying to do what they do best: be awful. Nazi Germans, not now Germans. You guys are fine. So, on the run again, she was like, I actually have to get out of here. But by then, someone had tipped off the Germans that they did find her there and that she was on the run. So she was finally captured for the last time. And this time they were like, we are not sending you to a detention camp. You are going to Ravensbrook, the women's concentration camp. And this is where it gets like not Zoolander.
Okay.
Not Zoolander.
Yes, I don't remember the concentration camp scene in Zoolander unless it
that was
left on the editing floor. Yeah, exactly.
For being really sad. So while this camp was operating, it was one specifically for women. 132,000 women would pass through it, with almost 100,000 of those dying.
Jesus.
Yeah, real bad. Yeah, real bad, I say. That's my hot take. So Koopman's head was shaved, and she was given the striped uniform. And because she was biracial, she was promptly sterilized to prevent her from ever reproducing.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. She was able to convince them that she was a nurse from London and began helping in the infirmary, quote unquote infirmary, which is actually just an experimental, where they would experiment on people. And she would sneak food and try to sneak medicine and stuff for those people who were being experimented on to lessen their pain and boost spirits. And she was even able to make certain medical records disappear completely, which was awesome. She herself was also subjected to harsh medical experimentation, including they would wound her and then test the wounds with different chemicals to see how it would infect. And this went on for months and months and months until the Swedish Red Cross actually was able to convince Himmler to release 7,000 of these women.
Really?
And yeah, I'd never heard
How did they do
that? I don't know. I had no idea.
Crazy.
I didn't look into it, but isn't that weird? I'd never heard about that.
That's weird. I'd never heard of anything like even that, like remotely sane happening in the middle of all this.
Right. Convincing Himmler of
Himmler just being like, you know what, you're right. I'm going to let 7,000 people out. Are you kidding me? What the shit?
And I think a lot of them were political prisoners because I think she had the badge that was an upside down red triangle that was denoted a political prisoner.
I see.
And so I think they released political prisoners rather than, anyone else. And when she was released, she was one of those who was released. She was emaciated. She was already a small woman, but she was absolutely skeletal. She was helped out. She was taken to Switzerland, and Randolph Churchill met her there, her ex-lover, and son of Winston
Prime
Churchill.
Minister,
brought her clothes and a wig and helped her settle down in Switzerland and heal, like helped helped her get better.
Good.
And
Good for him.
this traumatized her. Yeah. Oh, he seems like a kind of cool guy.
Good. How many of us would do that for our exes?
You
would just go out of your way.
I would do that for one ex of mine. He's a good guy.
Does he wear forest green?
Nope.
Again,
no.
A joke that no one knows
others,
what I'm referring to.
I just wouldn't. Sorry. So it was in Switzerland that, I mean, this deeply traumatized Toto.
Of course,
and I don't think she was ever the same, understandably. It kind of took a lot of the light out of her. But in Switzerland, while she was recuperating, she met a woman named Erika Browson, who was an art collector and gallerist who had also been involved in the resistance. And they fell in love. And she and Erika ended up moving to London, to where Erika was based, and they opened the Hanover Gallery, which was specializing in showing modern art, aka degenerate, not the art the Nazis considered degenerate, specialized in showing modern art, and even debuted Francis Bacon. It was his first.
Wow.
Yeah, and Marcel Duchamp.
Oh, wow.
And they lived openly as a couple together at a time when they could have been arrested. Toto did not speak about the war afterward and kept a little bit of a lower profile, and she just seemed like she just wanted to settle down.
Yeah.
And so she and Erika were together until Toto died in 1991.
Oh, wow.
With Erika following just 18 months later. Anyway, that is Toto's life. There's so much more to it. There's like all the ins and outs. I just can't get into it. But there are some pretty good books that I kind of read a little bit of. But Toto's, what struck me was that, again, like I said last week, like, why can't, people, I've seen on the internet, people being like, why can't we just talk about their accomplishments without mentioning that they're gay or bi or whatever? And reading this story, I just think that's a massive reason why she was able to do any of this, is that her being bisexual and being able to move between worlds, and her being biracial, being able to move between worlds, code switch, was an amazing advantage to her for spying and passing information on to the Allies. And I love that. I love that despite the time, that she unapologetically was proud of her race and her sexuality. Yeah. And she always fought for the underdog and used whatever she could to, help people, which I love. I love her. I love Toto. That's the story of Toto. Toto Koopman. Yeah.
Salute Toto and all of her efforts.
And one of the runners-up to Toto, I couldn't decide between her and Ela Shadore, which Elvira was a Peruvian gambling-addicted bisexual woman who was hired by the British service out of boredom because she was complaining about being bored at a casino, and they're like, "Do you want to be a spy?"
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Elvira, I couldn't find enough on her because she was always like pure chaos. Like one minute she's here, over the next minute she's over here. She's complaining about this, Like, I love her so much. You can look up Elvira Shadore. She was Peruvian, and she was the daughter of a diplomat in England.
I'm bored. I want to be a spy.
No, but she didn't even want to be a spy. They were just like, some guy was like, "Hey, I work for MI6. Do you want to
be a spy? Fine."
And she was like, "All right."
There's nothing else to do.
She was really good at it. She helped D-Day succeed. Like, she passed on information. She lied to she's a double agent.
Yeah.
She lied to the Germans and said, "Oh, actually, they're going to be over here," and totally tricked the Germans. And the Germans loved her. They're like, "She's our best spy." And the whole time she was just like, "I just want to gamble."
She doesn't even know what she's doing. She's like, I'll just have this alliance for now until I can figure out something better to do in the meantime.
But lifelong gambler, absolute hilarious, funny, really funny person. So she's great. Look her up. But yeah, that's Toto, and love her.
That's awesome. Thank you for that tab. It was wonderful. We salute Toto, the first photographed. That's the other thing that's crazy to me, is like somebody with
all of this.
And saying that, it just didn't occur to me that Vogue wouldn't have had some model on the cover. But it's funny to think that
just illustrations.
Models putting illustrators out of work.
Can you believe that?
So disgusting.
We used to run this place. No, and also the fact that she was mixed race.
Yeah,
as the first model, that is like
unheard of, and that
never would have. And I know that certain photos of her, you can see that she can pass in photos as white, but she never hid it. That was the thing. She was really proud of where she was from. To me, that's just like, it's incredible. So thank you, Toto, for giving an amazing name to chaotic bisexuals everywhere. Anyway, what do you have for me?
Nice. Thank you for the tab.
You're welcome.
So as we mentioned at the top of the show, lots going on in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah.
But of course, ironically, also like nothing. This is just also stupid.
So dumb.
And there's no reason for any of this to be happening. Nothing's going on, and I've complained a lot, but as you might
understandably.
Yeah, and as sort of as I said earlier too, it's like it's consumed every waking moment. It's like it's been hard to get anything done because I keep trying to focus on something and then I'll get distracted because someone will send something or you'll hear about something and it's like great. And I've been spending all this time on Blue Sky and listening to a lot of like, overthrowing the government, old soundtrack stuff that I love, like Muse.
Ooh, I've been listening to Woody Guthrie.
Woody Guthrie.
Have you heard "Tear the Fascists Down" by Woody Guthrie?
No, but that sounds like it's a
good one.
It sounds much more mellow than the kind of shit that I've been listening to.
Oh, yeah. I'm listening to like old school unionists from like the 30s. But
no, I'm listening to a lot of like I'm listening to a lot of like intense, like loud, aggressive.
Yeah, nice.
My 15-year-old self has sort of come back to the surface of like overthrow the government.
Isn't it funny how we were right when we were 15? And everyone's like, you'll grow out of it. Yeah. And then, no, we were right.
Speaking of we were right from our childhood, one of the records I've been listening to was Rage Against the Machine's seminal 1999 album, The Battle of Los Angeles.
Amazing.
Do you remember that one?
Yes. Wait.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about that?
No, but so that's sort of the inroad to my tab, right? Ooh, so lots of bangers on that one. It's a great record. I did think about doing that. Actually, I did think about talking about the record, but it's a whole other thing. Essentially what ends up happening is I was reading about it and I was like, what is the Battle of Los Angeles? Is that a thing? And as far as I can tell, there's no reference to a specific Battle of Los Angeles in the record, I think. Oh. Because what ends up happening is that on February 24th, 1942, there is an actual event that's referred to as the Battle of Los Angeles.
What?
Yeah.
1942?
1942.
Oh, we got another World War II story.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily want to do another World War II one or like another one about, but it felt like, okay, that's strange. I was like, this is the Battle of Los Angeles. I don't think it's a part of the record, but then again, I'm terrible at lyrics. So there might have been reference in one of them, but as far as I could tell, it's not really a thing. But anyway, I was like, well, what's the Battle of Los Angeles? That's strange.
Yeah.
So I decided to do my tab about that.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
So now, dear listener, if you remember all the way back in episode 5, you, Hannah, talked about the Niihau incident that unfolded after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. And it was terrible, and there were lots of death, there was destruction, all kinds of stuff happened. But really, the thing that sucked the most is suddenly people were going to have to do like a shitload of work right as everybody was ready to go off to their Christmas breaks and their New Year's break. They were so annoyed.
What a shame.
You got to make all these calls.
Couldn't you have waited till January to
after we came back? Let me get my break before you attack us. Let me go on vacation. I bought all these gifts.
And now I have to like worry about the end of the country and
respond to emails.
The California coast being attacked. Because I know that like in San Francisco, they set up a bunch of like anti-aircraft turrets and guns. Oh, okay. I go hiking. Have you ever been to the ones in the Marin Headlands?
I don't think I've been over there, no.
Oh, they're fun. You hike up the mountain and you can sit inside these old anti-aircraft guns.
That's cool. Yeah. I've never seen them in person. Anyway, it's terrible and it's really annoying. Yeah. And now America has to like do work. Suffice it to say, bringing that energy into 1942 like truly sucked. And everybody was like super on edge, understandably, especially the West Coast, like the entirety of the West Coast, kind of to your point. Pearl Harbor had completely caught everybody off guard. And now everybody was sort of questioning everything because it's not like today where, you know, somebody would hop in the plane and the pilots could start live streaming their flight over to bomb America because they really needed to grow their YouTube subscriber base and they could monetize the channel. And then we'd all get that heads up email that a stream had started and we were subscribed to and blah, blah, blah. Subscribe to our YouTube, by the way.
Please do it.
But in terms of being able to spot another giant attack, 1940s tech was like questionable at best, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really have the tech for it. Probably a lot more reliant, like you said in your previous tab, on like spies or people like fishing out information that was going to happen on some level. But the tech, really essentially, as far as what the world is today, is non-existent. And what's worse, Los Angeles was ranked first of all cities in America in production of aircraft. And San Pedro Bay housed an enormous naval armada, which I assume belonged to Pepsi or the Soviet Union, one of the two.
Yeah.
But
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper owned it.
Kroger owned it.
And the shipbuilding industry had exploded from 1,000 to suddenly 22,000 employees over the previous couple of years.
Wow.
And so Angelenos, they all kind of felt like sitting ducks, just waiting for the next Japanese attack. They're like, this is clearly what
scary.
They would hit if they came. And, of course, much like Sarah Palin probably thinks, we can all see Osaka from the Santa Monica Pier. It's right there.
I haven't heard the name Sarah Palin in years and years.
Still not long enough.
Hate that lady. I hate that.
So there's all these different reasons that people are worried and they're on edge and they're not thinking clearly. And America starts coming up with these ideas. So they're scrambling and they have to come up with these stopgaps in case there's another attack. And kind of like what you said, one of the things that they did was, what did you call it? You said that was on the Marin Trail.
Anti-aircraft.
Yeah.
The battery. They call it the batteries. Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell them what it is.
Oh, okay. So it's like all along the San Francisco coast by the Presidio, which was an army base at the time.
Now
There's just these
Lucasfilm is.
That's right. The Presidio is amazing. If you guys ever come to
beautiful.
visit, it just go sit on the grass. That's all you need to do. Just sit there and it's just gorgeous. Beautiful city. California is the best, and I'm proud of our state.
Me too.
So there on the Presidio along the top edge by the Golden Gate Bridge, there's these old batteries, military batteries, where they would house these huge anti-aircraft guns. And I don't know what else, but there's like these big, huge pit, like giant circle pits you can get down into. There's like little like crawl tunnels through the ground. And we always go up there as like on a hike and just like walk all over them. But they're huge. They're everywhere. And you can still go on the Battery Trail and see all of them. And then if you cross the bridge, go to Marin Headlands, you just go up the mountain and there's tons.
Yeah.
And, but they were never used. They scrambled to make them because they were like, bro, this could...
The Japanese are going to come attack us, so we need to put up a bunch of cannons on the side of the bridge, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty
they're still there. The guns aren't, but they're... Anyway, I took a bajillion photos for reference, of course, because it's really cool.
So thank you for that. So one of the ideas, so they built all those. And then another one of the ideas that they put forth, which I had never heard of, maybe you've heard of it, was citywide blackouts.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you know about this? I didn't know about this. So the thinking was that somehow if the Japanese did manage to make it all the way to the heart of Los Angeles, despite all the horrible, horrible sky traffic on the 405.
The helicopters everywhere. You can't even get through.
Bro, these days? Yeah. You kidding me? There's the LAPD, there's the military PD, the military helicopters, there's the millicopters, there's also all like the press. The skies are just filled. Someone's texting and they're not paying attention to flying, and you're just like kind of honking your horn
straight into another helicopter.
Oh, it's disgusting.
I would never get in a helicopter ever, unless I had to be life flighted somewhere. I am so scared of helicopters.
Hot take Hillam, hating on helicopters.
Yeah, that's why they call me Hannah, helicopter hating Hillam.
Helicopter hating Hillam. Apologies to all of our helicopter pilot listeners.
And our helicopter listeners, go to hell.
Helicopter.
Go to helicopter, okay?
Anyway, so the idea with the blackout was if the Japanese managed to make it, they would fly over to LA and it was all of a sudden it would just be nothing but darkness because it's very hard to do a night strike if there's no lights anywhere.
Right.
And then the pilots would get all confused and think they'd like taken a wrong turn. And then they'd have to look at like a Thomas guide, and their son who's in the passenger side would have to like turn on the overhead light. But then the pilot dad would start screaming at him because he's like, I can't see. And then they'd get into a big argument about not being able to read a map without a light. And what difference does it even make? And it's not that bright. And the disappointment from like parent and child would get so great that all the planes would just crash into each other. And boom, America wins the war. The end.
Wow. That didn't just give me a perfect little window into your psyche.
Can you imagine having to go bomb people with your dad the pilot? We would get in a fight.
My dad wouldn't say anything. He'd be like, just do it. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I've made the decision to do this. It's like the tension between when you're in the back seat of the car and they whip out that big map in the middle of Nevada and they're like, where do we go? And of course they argue and you're like, the tension is awful. It's awful in here. Yeah. And you'd get out of the car, but you'd probably get killed by a coyote. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's not fun. That's why I don't want to fly in a plane with my father as a pilot as I fight for the Americans in World War II.
Yeah.
No thanks. My dad and I, separate
Fingers
planes.
crossed.
We need separate planes. Okay.
Look, you'll work together, but not in the same
Yeah.
plane.
I'll talk to him on the ground before we fly, but there has to be a clear chain of command where he listens to me if I give him an order.
It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen ever. Anyway, don't go into the military with your parents. You'll just do nothing but argue. But that's a story for another day. So everybody in LA surprisingly was like, hell yeah, this sounds like an awesome plan. Let's do it. Let's just turn off all the lights.
Party.
Everybody, of course, except Japanese Americans who were about to be whisked away to concentration camps that America Focus grouped and decided to rebrand as internment camps because it pulled better with voters.
It really, and that's true, folks. Yep. That's true.
Same thing. But the citywide blackouts, they were crazy intense. And every light was turned off, of course, and people closed all their curtains, but it went even crazier. Beach bonfires were banned. Movie premieres at the Chinese theater took place under a giant black canopy.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Even
That's crazy.
Cigarettes couldn't be smoked from fear of like burning ash and tobacco being seen all the way up in the sky.
What?
Yeah. Although vaping was okay, though. They were okay with vaping. Vaping was fine.
Yeah, especially like the really horrific smelling bubblegum kind.
It's okay. Also, boomers, they were allowed to talk on speakerphone with their flashlights and screen brightness turned all the way up because you can't do anything about that. But other than that, no exceptions.
They're trying. Dude, I feel so much like whenever I find my flashlight is on, I'm like, I am a boomer.
I'm just
and I feel shame.
Air fry me. Just kill me out. Air fry me and put me into the wood chipper.
It'll make it easier to break you down on the wood chipper.
Perfect. It'll be nice and easy. Then you can consume me in like a nice little drink. Anyway, all this
smoothie.
This sounds insane, obviously, but of course, remember, this is we were saying 9/11 earlier. It's like, this is Pearl Harbor was the 9/11 of their day. They're just like, no.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Pearl Harbor? Oh, do you want to get attacked? Do you want to get bombed? Pearl Harbor.
Well, do you remember how there was like all the planes were down for like 2 weeks after 9/11 and how quiet the skies were?
Yeah, except for the Bin Laden family apparently being allowed to leave America.
Are you serious?
That's a conspiracy for another day.
Oh, I'm about to go open some tabs.
I actually never followed through to see if any of that was real, but I do remember that was the conspiracy of back in the day. Anyway, of course, everyone's freaking out. They're still in that panic, but also there were a couple of additional incidents that added fuel to this fire. That, again, I did not know about this. While the Japanese couldn't send more planes all the way to Los Angeles without an aircraft carrier, they did send submarines.
Oh.
Did you know this?
No.
So on December 23rd, 1941, a Japanese sub sank the oil tanker Montebello off of California's coast.
What?
Yes.
I did not know that. That's terrifying.
So part of that was, I think the submarine had come at the initial Pearl Harbor attack and it just like kept going and like attacking stuff. And it did manage to reach almost the California coast and sink that tanker. And then there was another attack on the lumber ship SS Ab Soroka the very next day, causing minor damage and killing one crew member.
Dang.
And on February 23rd, a cruiser sub entered the Santa Barbara Channel and began firing on the Elwood oil field just 10 miles north of Santa Barbara.
I had no idea. So there was actually a reason for people to be really nervous.
Right. And it seemed, and at that point, you don't know where it's going to go. So you're just like, okay,
right.
Pearl Harbor happened. Now there's all these submarine attacks showing up. You're going crazy.
Right.
And, the planes are like obviously questionable about them being able to come, but Southern California also didn't want any like of these periscopes to go up and take any notes about the city.
Right.
So it was lights out for the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area.
Oh.
I didn't see, it went pretty far inland. I didn't see if it got to like, Riverside if they had to comply, but I imagine.
We should ask Nico.
Let us know in the Discord if it happened.
It's funny. I was driving home from Irvine from the Pac-Man thing.
Yeah.
And whenever I saw a sign that said Riverside, I'd just think Nico lives there.
Nico?
Whatever it is that makes me insane has decided now those two are inextricably linked now.
Forever. And he needs to be mayor of Riverside.
I've met Nico once. He could be anything.
We've totally, what did you say? You're like, it's reverse parasocial.
It's reverse parasocial. We have a reverse parasocial relationship with one of our listeners. It is bizarre. And you know what? All he had to do was share one tab with us. And since then, it's just been like.
It was great.
Anyway.
No, Nico sent a couple of bangers.
Out. Oh, yeah. Nico's the king of sending bizarre tabs. So anyway.
Shout out to Nico. So tensions, all-time high. Japanese are taking shots on continental U.S. People are out of their minds.
I can't even imagine.
Out of their minds. And then, suddenly, which brings us to the event of today. So, Beginning on February 24th, 1942, unidentified objects caused a succession of alerts in Southern California. First,
UFOs.
a warning issued by Naval Intelligence indicated that an attack could be expected within the next 10 hours.
Scary.
Yeah, it's funny. It reminded me of one of those general like orange alert kind of things that we used to get all the time.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And he'd be like, oh, everyone be on edge. There's an orange alert about like anything.
Homeland Security, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A joke. All of this shit didn't lead to anything.
Absolute
just
joke.
wasted money and like created a military state where we just surveillance everything. And that's where
gave them an excuse to.
ICE didn't exist before this, by the way. Thank you very much.
No, it didn't. 2003, ICE came around. Homeland Security didn't exist until 2003.
Yep. Anyway, everyone, it's all because interdepartmental feuds and people didn't want to share information because they're all too proud. And that's why these things happen. Not because citizens didn't take off their shoes when they flew planes.
And now you get to pay money to keep your shoes on.
I know, it's great. It's a wonderful system.
America.
Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Also,
It
Palantir
works.
scanning everything that everyone's doing ever. And if you go to these protests, make sure you wear masks and hats and sunglasses because they're creating a database even further. And this is all a giant honeypot operation to make sure that they can figure out who they think the agitators might be. End of rant.
Absolutely. That is 100% true. Okay, we're not just being crazy.
I mean, we are, but crazy doesn't mean you're wrong.
No, exactly. For a good reason. Also, why would they take the name Palantir from Tolkien and ruin it?
Because it's cheeky and fun. I mean, they didn't ruin the name. In fact, they're just making the name more of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Orange alert. So at 7:18 p.m., air raid sirens went off, informing the citizens of Los Angeles that shit might be to go down and it was time to stop filming their whatever TikToks and shit. It's time to go into lockdown.
TikToks.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here at the hot dog stand in front of the Hollywood Bowl, which has yet to be built. Actually, I'm not sure what year it got built, but I think it was before that.
It was earlier than that, I think.
Yeah. What would be at 19? I'm here on Hollywood Boulevard, which is totally empty because there's no traffic.
Cars?
Things are great.
The 3 cars I've seen in the city? That's it? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm here with Roger Rabbit. Anyway.
Oh, man. Someone should do that. Someone should make that.
People's got to turn off their lights off, stop swinging. And this is February, right? So at this time, it's probably dark, right? Around this time in the evening, by like 7 p.m. So a large number of flares and blinking lights were reported from the vicinity of defense plants, but ultimately nothing came to fruition. It was probably just, a false alarm caused by someone filming an establishing shot over Los Angeles with a drone they bought from Costco, like I said earlier, for some short that they'll never finish, but they just wanted to spend all this money. And they're like, I'm a filmmaker now. That's why I got to buy this $1,000 drone and blah, blah, blah.
They're going to lose interest and then it'll sit in their closet.
And if they do finish the film, I'm sure it's terrible. It's awful, but they're going to submit it to every
Vimeo.
Don't invite me to your terrible film premiere at some dinky little film festival. I don't want that obligation. I've been here for too long. Anyway, so they temporarily released the blackout order at 10:23 p.m., which for me wouldn't have mattered because I would have already been asleep because I got to get up in the morning and bike. I don't have time for this shit.
Man, I'd be fully awake. I'd be I'm just barely starting up my day.
Yeah, I'm starting my tab now.
I do it at night.
At 10:45. So everything's kind of fine for a couple hours. People are drinking, whatever, back to normal. But then at 1:45 a.m., the coastal radar picked up a blip. An unidentified aerial target 120 miles west of Los Angeles and headed straight for the city.
Scary.
By 2:15, 2 more radar sites confirmed the object. And at 2:25, the city's air raid warning system went off again.
Have you ever heard an air raid siren?
No, but I do have a funny story of when I traveled overseas, but I will tell you. Go ahead.
No, they're just really terrifying.
I've heard them like in movies and stuff, but...
Oh, okay. Because I went to some museum in Britain. There was like a demonstration of one.
Yeah.
And they're really chilling. Like they say, they're like tornado sirens too. Like they're supposed to sound that way.
They're supposed to be just intense.
Really scary. And yeah, it's a really haunting, like chill up your spine sound. Anyway.
I mean, I certainly know it. I just haven't personally, thankfully, been in an area where I had to hear it because something was about to go down. Fun, quick sidebar. I did mention on the last episode that I had been to Istanbul and I had gotten, when I was there, I stayed at this Airbnb and it was like a room that I was renting from these other 2 dudes that lived there. And when I got to Istanbul, it was like, 1 p.m. or something almost. And I was tired and I was like jet lagged and I kind of just fell asleep on top of the mattress, on top of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember exactly what the time was when it happened. But of course, there's the Muslim call to prayer that happens, 5 times a day.
Right.
So there's an alarm that goes off to like let people know in the city. So I just woke up and like, whoa, like what's going, because I was in like a deep kind of jet lag sleep because I was so tired. And I was freaking out and I was like, what's going on? And I was totally confused. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's the Muslim call to prayer. And I fell back to sleep. And then later, when I had a conversation with the hosts, they're like, how are you doing? Like, did you manage to take a good nap and like get some rest? And I was like, yeah. And I thought this was funny. This is a funny, like cultural, like of a misunderstanding moment.
Clash.
Where I was like, it was really crazy. I was like, I went to take a nap and then I heard this sound and I thought like a nuclear bomb was about to go off. And that's what that was. And the guy gave me this look like I was the most racist person ever because he thought that I was saying that like Muslims have bombs that are going off. And I was like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. I'm talking about in America. And then he sort of got it. And then he started laughing and he was like, oh, okay. But it was funny because I was like, oh, here, I'm the person that's like far removed from all the Middle East stuff. I was like, usually I'm the person that has to defend this. Anyway,
here I am being slightly racist toward, or being perceived. That's really
perceived
funny.
as racist. Yeah. But I was like, my affiliation is with this is nuclear bombs, but it's completely removed from the religion. Anyway, it was just a fun little, I still remember that, it being like, that's a fun little moment I had with my Turkish hosts. Anyway.
And just like the different, the collision of cultures.
It's completely a collision of cultures.
You have to like talk through, because if you don't talk through it, it's like, it can easily end badly. Yeah.
Because that's what we're conditioned in America. Is you're just like, nuclear bombs are about to go off. That's what that sound is.
You're about to die. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my side point. What was I saying? So
I don't know.
10 p.m. What is it? Oh no, I'm sorry. 2:25. 2:25 is when this starts going off. And all of a sudden, the blackouts ordered. Thousands of air raid wardens were summoned to their positions, and shit was tense. And everyone's on pins and needles, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting because they have no idea what's about to go. And the tension builds until suddenly, at 3:16 a.m., around the Culver City area, the city's searchlights swung around to something in the sky, because there are searchlights at this point, because they're like, if they end up, they're not going to just be totally dark. They're going to be able to have to like focus something in the sky to be like, this is where we are. There's no like 3D like virtual reality headsets that people can say. So you just got to be like, over here, shoot this.
They just use a huge flashlight.
Basically, that's all it is. Yeah. Which here's an example. It's not on anything specific, but here's a really crazy image of like them exemplifying what it looks like when they did focus on something.
That is really cool looking. Yeah. It looks like it just looks fake. It looks like someone painted like luminous lines on top of a photo. It looks like aliens are abducting 17 different people.
It's true. It does look like that. So
they do that.
3:16 a.m., the city's searchlight swung around onto something that's in the sky. And in an instant, the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade began firing machine guns and aircraft shells into the air at a reported aircraft.
Wait, they didn't even like check?
That was all they needed. This is all the tension. So I think this is a moment. They claim that this is the photograph.
It just kind of looks like they're shooting at a bunch of lights in the sky.
So it's like,
what are they shooting at?
Boom. These are huge guns, like you said. Massive. So down is up, up is down. Nobody knows what the shit was going on. People are just shooting in the air with these massive guns, and it's super loud.
I see the outline of something. Go on.
I don't know.
Never mind.
And of course, the guns being fired, they almost sound like bombs themselves are being dropped onto the city.
Everyone's probably like freaking out.
Everyone absolutely just loses their shit. And this is an industry town, right? Everyone like all the grips and Teamsters and shit are like, yeah, I've seen everything, like kid, like whatever, but not this. This is a whole other level. And this is like in Los Angeles. And Americans are obsessed with like owning guns and the Second Amendment and all that crap, but it's like, it's cosplay. Like most civilian people would absolutely lose their minds when any kind of military attack starts
fall
happening.
Apart. Yeah. Because I hate to say it, but like your gun isn't going to stop anybody with a drone.
Yeah, exactly. With bombs, certainly.
Your militia isn't going to stop a facial recognition drone copter.
Yeah.
Anyway. Go on.
So suddenly the information center is just getting flooded with calls. People are reporting like enemy planes.
Jeez.
Even though the mysterious object tracked in from sea seems to just not be on any radar anymore. And at 2:43 a.m., planes were reported near Long Beach. And a few minutes later, a Coast Artillery colonel spotted about, quote, 25 planes at 12,000 feet over Los Angeles. At At 3:06 a.m., a balloon carrying a red flare was seen over Santa Monica, and 4 batteries of anti-aircraft artillery opened fire, whereupon the, quote, air over Los Angeles erupted like a volcano.
So they're just blasting. That's when they started blasting.
I blasted them, exactly. Quote, from this point on, reports were hopelessly at variance. And according to the New York Times, residents from Santa Monica southward to Long Beach, covering a 39-mile arc, watched from rooftops, hills, and beaches as tracer bullets with golden yellowish tints and shells like skyrockets offered the first real show of the Second World War on the United States mainland. By sunrise, the Battle of Los Angeles seemed to finally be over. And at 7:21, the Regional Warning Center finally issued an all clear and the city was able to return to normal.
So all night, people probably thought that they were shooting down Japanese airplanes.
Yep.
All night.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. What were they shooting at? Do we know?
I'll get to it.
Oh, thank goodness we know. I can't wait.
Oh, no. I didn't say that. I'll get into like some ideas.
Okay.
But anyway, the city by 7:30 in the morning, it goes back to normal. Normal in LA, of course, is like brunch on a Wednesday because the local industry is collapsing. There's also influencers in the middle of the street taking shirtless photos of themselves in front of palm trees while the LAPD flies helicopters overhead and the Marines show up to go to maybe war with American citizens. I don't know.
In a Home Depot parking lot.
Home Depot parking lot. But to quote Randy Newman, I love LA.
It's like that. I don't know if you ever listened to the Decemberists. They don't seem like your type, but
I do remember them, but I never really listened to them.
There was a song about it's called Los Angeles, I'm Yours. And it's just the whole song is just being like, this place sucks. It's disgusting here. Everyone sucks. And I love it so much. And I always think about that when I'm in LA.
Yeah. So after the dust had settled, Battle Los Angeles had indirectly resulted in 5 deaths due to car accidents that happened during the blackout. Because remember, there's no lights anywhere.
Someone drove their car?
Oh, yeah. People were learning to... I sort of read a little bit about it. Like, people had to adapt to driving in the darkness at that time.
That's stupid. That's why we don't do that.
The blackouts happened a couple of times, or more than a couple, I think.
Like
they
as
were just
practice.
And then also, like, periodically, I think they would just do it. Actually, I think I saw... Did I have one picture of this? I did grab a picture of it. I think it's like some dude trying to cover his headlights.
Whoa, yeah, he's trying to black out his headlights.
Yeah, so that people wouldn't see them.
That's
anyway,
crazy.
So there's a couple of car accidents and literal heart attacks caused by shock from all the shooting and craziness.
Dude. Okay. I shouldn't be laughing. That's really sad.
Anti-aircraft batteries had fired more than 1,400 rounds, none of which hit any enemy aircrafts because there had not been an enemy aircraft to begin with.
What was it, a UFO? A blimp?
I don't know. And once again, disgusting, sad, terrible. Authorities also arrested some 20 Japanese Americans for allegedly trying to signal the non-existent aircraft.
Are you kidding?
No, I tell you, people, like this shit, it just never changes. It never changes. It's been just over and over and over again. The same shit. It's a cycle,
everybody. If you can't see that it's a cycle and a pattern, wake up. That was the most like half-assed wake up.
Yeah.
Believe it. Just read about anything. And you'll see. It's just the same thing.
So the likeliest explanation for what had happened was some people say it was like a stray weather balloon drifting towards land.
I just pictured them filling a weather balloon with 1,000 bullets. That's insane.
Of course, a lot of people think it's aliens because why not?
Yeah.
It's aliens. They're fun. That photo that I sent you was published in the Los Angeles Times.
UFO.
Had been used to quote unquote prove it was an extraterrestrial craft.
It looks like it has one in there.
Yeah, but again, this is a random photo in 1940, and it could just be a bunch of like lights stacked on top of each other.
Right.
So
the little effects of
like the Moray effect or whatever, like something like that. Anyway, so another explanation appears in an article attributed to the veteran Los Angeles newsman Matt Weinstock, in which he interviews a man who says he served in one of the anti-aircraft batteries.
Okay.
So this is the quote. Early in the war, things were pretty scary, and the Army was setting up coastal defenses. At one of the new radar stations near Santa Monica, the crew tried in vain to arrange for some planes to fly by so that they could test the system. As no one could spare the planes at the time, they hit up a novel way to test the radar. One of the guys bought a bag of nickel balloons and then filled them with hydrogen, attached metal wires, and let them go. Catching the offshore breeze, the balloons had the desired effect of showing up on the screens, proving the equipment was working. But after traveling a good distance offshore into the south, the nightly onshore breeze started to push the balloons back towards the coastal cities. The coastal radars picked up the metal wires, and the searchlights swung around automatically onto the targets, looking on the screens as aircrafts heading for the city. The ack started firing, and the rest was history. This is not confirmed, and this is just one random person that like they interviewed, but that sounds right to me.
That sounds right. That sounds like absolutely some idea that someone would have had. They didn't think it through all the way.
That's too specific to be like a conspiracy to me. Like,
it's like, let's test the system with some balloons. And then, of course, everyone's about to freak out anyway. So anything that shows up, like
on pins and needles,
tinderbox, the whole country at that point, I'm sure, was just like ready and waiting.
Yep.
That's crazy, dude. I'm going to say it's aliens because it's fun.
It is more fun. Aliens is always the first answer for me because it's fun. Yeah. Because life would be so much more fun if it was just aliens all the time.
It'd just be funny if it was like aliens going on a road trip and they accidentally take a wrong turn into a war-torn planet, and they're like, "Oh, we were told we weren't supposed to go here." And then they'll
hand me the Glip Glop Thomas guide, and then they get in a fight, and then they
get in a fight, and their alien kid in the back seat is like, "I wish this wouldn't happen."
Anyway, that is the Battle of Los Angeles, the first one. Anyway, we'll see if there's another one that happens in the next 30 more days that apparently they're supposed to be here,
or even in the next 12 hours. We'll see.
Yeah.
And again, it'll probably be a huge overreaction, just like
100%, just like this overreaction, except nothing happened. There's no reason for any of this that's happening currently.
No. Dude, I love humans, man. I mean, we are horrible. We're horrible, horrible little creatures, but we're also like, we have such high tech and we have such trigger happy tendencies.
Dumb brain.
And we're ready to shoot at anything. And yet,
I wouldn't say humans. I would say Americans specifically are the ones that love this.
It's true. I always talk about that how we accidentally dropped a nuke on South Carolina, but it didn't go off. Because that's just kind of how careless we've gotten with our nukes. But like, we're just...
I think I've mentioned this before on... I probably have talked about this, but my favorite thing from Independence Day, which I barely remember the movie, but the one thing is they're cutting to all the footage of all the different alien crafts across the world. And there's like the Chirons, all the news Chirons. And then the one in America has like a special thing on the bottom that says, "Please do not fire your weapons into the sky at the alien craft," which I'm like, chef's kiss. Beautiful. Beautiful detail about America.
Yep.
Anyway.
Oh, it's incredible. Thank you for that.
That's my
story.
tab.
That was wild. I did not know about that.
I didn't either.
Anyway. I want to look at all these pictures.
There's some fun ones. So now is the time that we go to close our tabs. What kind of sound effect would you like to use? Should it be giant turrets and guns and...
Again, second week in a row.
I mean, it's World War II. I didn't mean to do a second World War II one.
We're going to do some anti-aircraft guns.
Okay.
Sounds. I don't know what those sound like. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Close.
Yeah.
I'm closing.
By the way, I think Smithsonian Mag was the main reference that one of the references that I pulled from. They had a pretty good article, which I'll include in the notes. I keep forgetting to.
I keep forgetting to talk about it, but I'll include mine. It's an article from them.us, which is LGBT specific website.
All right, moving on to listener emails. You're up first.
Listener mail. This is from Tanner in Utah. Hey guys, I love the show and just wanted to tell you about one of my recent open tabs. When I was at the Pride Parade, I saw people walking in the parade with a Zaqistan flag and had no idea what it was. Apparently, some Utahn named Zach Landsberg bought a chunk of land off eBay in 2005 and then declared it an independent nation. It has borders, Border Patrol Gate, national monuments, and he used to grant citizenship with an optional $50 passport. He refers to all property taxes as, quote, tribute money to maintain peaceful diplomatic relations. I guess their nation is doing so well, they decided to leave to take part in Salt Lake City Pride.
That's
Tanner.
awesome.
And I went and read about Zaqistan, and I have driven through Zaqistan so many times. I did not know it was its own little country, so you can visit these art installations known as the Guardians, which are like these big robotic metal sculptures that guard Zaqistan. And it's in the salt flats, so you can like pull over and look. And then there's like this port of entry that's like a tiny little like dinky shack. And what looks like a giant mirrored ball with large Barbie legs poking out of it. So what seems like is that it's an artist's installation paradise. And Zach treats it like that, and so he can explore the ideas of nationhood and borders.
Sweet. That sounds
Isn't that
fun.
cool?
Yeah.
And I am going to be driving through that area in a couple months, and so I do want to make a stop and see if I can see some of these things.
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome. Moving on to email number 2 is from John the Mod.
Hey, from
famously in the Discord. John the Mod has been a very active member. And on top of that, guess what he sent?
Oh.
A voice memo.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Hi, Kaveh and Hannah. John the Mod here from the Discord, delivering my tab on location at Walt Disney World. Not a lot of people know this, but the Vacation Kingdom is home to some very fascinating historical events. For instance, the Contemporary Resort, which this monorail I'm on is passing through right as we speak,
The monorail.
is where Richard Nixon held a press conference at the height of the Watergate scandal, where he famously declared that he was not a crook. If you ride it even further, you'll stop at the Polynesian Resort, where in 1974, according to assistant May Pang, John Lennon signed the papers that officially broke up the Beatles.
Oh.
That's the thing I love most about traveling, coming across history in the most unlikely of places, even at the most magical place on Earth. For the wonderful folks at 500 Open Tabs, I'm John the Mod. Back to you.
We sound so cool the way that John signed on. Like, we sound like a real network.
Like a news person.
Holy shit. That was amazing.
I love that anyone who finds out anything about Nixon is like, I need to write into this podcast I listen to.
These idiots will love it.
Tell them about it. Thank you, John. That was fun.
That was incredible.
I like that you were on a monorail at Disneyland and we could hear it in the background. That made it even better.
That was one of my favorites. That's fantastic. Such a good tab. Such a good. Thank you for thinking of us at Disneyland too, and just taking time out of your day at Disneyland to be able to do it. I'm sorry, Disney World. I believe is where he was.
Same,
right? Yeah, Disney
same
World.
thing in my mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Disney. And if you also want to send in a voice memo or an open tab that you've closed recently, you can just email us at 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500, and keep them under like a minute or two.
Yeah. Also, in case you didn't know that we mentioned multiple times in this episode, we have a YouTube. Please go subscribe to the YouTube. Please subscribe to us on any kind of podcast platform. Anything you can do to help spread the word. If you know somebody who, I don't know, likes to get yelled at by their dad in the car while they're looking at Thomas guides, send them this episode. They'll relate to it.
Someone who is bisexual and chaotic, send this episode.
If you know an Italian resistance fighter, send them this episode.
Some poor 90-year-old person being like, what is this?
Listen, they might be excited to hear about this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and if you want to follow us, you can follow us at 500 Open Tabs. For me, it's at Hannah Hillam.
For me, it's at PermaFriends on Instagram, and then Kaveh Taherian, my name on Blue Sky, in which I have been somewhat more active lately as a result of this. I'm trying to not be because I have work to do, but
Yelling
who knows?
At politicians.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Meanwhile, thank you, Alyssa, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the listeners. And of course, in the meantime, who knows what'll happen between now and the next episode, but hopefully nothing. Yeah. But no
hopefully
promises.
Nothing. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I'll see you at the.
I don't think there's anything else we want to announce quite yet, or what?
No, but I'm gonna say keep it Josephine.
Keep it Josephine. I think the Josies will appreciate us shouting out Josephine.
Yeah, Josephine. Yeah. She's great.
In the meantime, keep it Josephine, and I will see you. What did you say last time? I will FaceTime you from the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet.
From the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet to where you are at the
Nicky Nixies. Dickie Nixie, right?
It's a mess, dude. It's an absolute mess.
Beaverbrook, keep it Beaverbrook. Keep those Beaverbrooks flowing.
Keep those Beaverbrooks flowing. Don't let boner law get in the way, you know?
Resist the president's urge to declare boner law.
Yes. And also, in general, just resist, okay? Bye.
Boner law, bye.
Boner.